Everyone, welcome to the AI Applied podcast. We are here with legend of the show, Logan Kilpatrick. He's come on the show at least 100 times, I think. So really, he is our most frequented guest, but that is because he's been working in all the best companies on all the best tech.
Thank you for having me for the 100th time. This is a privilege. Truly a privilege.
Great to have you, man. It's great. Especially, by the way, on this of all days, anyway, so guys, by the way, just to sort of like peek behind the curtain here, like we were just like having a conversation and Jaden's like, hitting play. And Jaden's like, hey, guys, the podcast has started, but we're like, oh, Logan, save that for the pod. So anyway, lots of stories. Jaden, go on.
Okay, Logan, tell us. I mean, we gotta get right off the gate with the big news launch today, which is Nano Banana 2. I have been playing with this. I have thoughts. I have comments. But Logan, tell us the background on Nano Banana 2, what it can do. I mean,
It's
this thing is
honestly crazy. So I feel like people have a lot of hype for Nano Banana, but I think the Nano Banana 2 model lives up to the hype. So it's the next gen image generation and image editing model that we created. It's faster than the Pro model, higher quality than the Pro model. It's significantly cheaper than the Pro model, and it comes with a bunch of new bells and whistles that didn't exist before. So if you're trying to do sort of more advanced use cases, there's a bunch of new aspect ratios. So if you want like sort of more horizontal images or more vertical images, if you want cheaper images with like lower resolution or higher resolution going all the way up to 4K, all of those things are supported. And I think there's a lot of the feedback, like as you edit images and generate them, like builders, individuals like want all these knobs and controls, and all these things exist, which is crazy. And for folks watching on video, like Jaden showing a bunch of the examples, which is awesome. And my favorite new thing is we rolled out Nano Banana Pro in December with Google search support. So if you were to ask a question, something like, what's the weather like in Chicago right now, and then actually generate an image of it, it would be able to like go and pull the temperature in Chicago and whether it's raining or snowy or whatever, and then actually include that information in the image. And now with Nano Banana 2, we're rolling out a new image search capability. So the example I was giving off camera was if you were to go and sort of take a picture of my desk in front of me and say, add a picture, add an image of like the new Google Pixel phone next to my laptop. By default, the model doesn't know that because would have been a phone that came out, order of like a couple of weeks or months ago. And so it's able to actually go and use Google search, find out what the latest phone is, and then specifically use image search to bring that part of the image directly into this like new generated image this generated picture. And so it unlocks all these super, super cool new use cases.
It's just bonkers. I mean, Jaden and I were sort of talking right before you even arrived, Logan, and but just about like how just good it looks. And I guess the thing that has been so interesting for me is that it's one thing sort of like I saw like the Gemini, app sort of spike when like Nano Banana comes out, everybody just kind of like freaked out. It's just sort of like funny that the code name became like then like the official name. I don't know if you guys had like a different name planned for it or something like that, but I love that everybody calls it Nano Banana. The thing that I was talking to Jaden about just off camera here was I'm now using obviously like Notebook LM, but Nano Banana now is so good that, we always say like, this would have taken me X amount of time, right? But now that's actually shifted. So like, if I'm like working with like, big clients, so I work with a lot of, big clients with AI mindset, right? And so like what we do is like, I'm like, let me just show you, like, I'm going to have like, Gemini running a deep research project on whatever, just give me a thing, right? So I grab that, toss it in Notebook LM, and I always just do a deck. And after I show that this, and our mutual friend Ali Miller and I were texting about this last night about like, it's almost like it's like a painter with a beret hat on, and he's like, oh, I got to do this perfect. Do you know what I mean? Whereas everybody else is just getting it out. My point on this is that when you create a deck with this, and now with Nano Banana, it replaces what I can do. It doesn't augment what I can do because I couldn't have done a deck like that. So when you guys are putting out things like Nano Banana, what is like the behind the scenes within Google you're saying, like, because this can drive crazy enterprise.
Yeah. I think the most fascinating thing that you're hitting on, Connor, is like I think the market for what Nano Banana is doing now, even today before Nano Banana 2, didn't exist before. It's like all of these new creative tasks or all of these new ways of solving problems that like were out of arm's reach for most people. And maybe you could sort of have like and like a good example of this is like virtual try on. There's been all these like entire companies and all this like very complicated infrastructure to let people like take a picture of some clothing item and like see what they look like with it on. And now Nano Banana just like does that out of the box. And like I've met all of these startups who are sort of going after that market in like really interesting and nuanced ways. And I think they'll all hopefully be excited about Nano Banana too. But I think it's a good example of like all of these use cases, infographics, as an example. Like I think we're like something that we're kind of like, dying off, if you will. And like the Nano Banana 2 and the Nano Banana Pro model is just like crushing that use case. And like it's a great example of these models having a real expansionary capability and sort of like all of these markets and enabling all these use cases that weren't possible before. And I think actually just to hit on the point of your question, I think the fun thing is that like you don't know releasing the model all of the things and like how much it's going to catch on. So I think it's the fun part about releasing these models is like seeing what the ecosystem will actually do. And there's all the trends and all the new use cases and all that stuff that just like it's hard to come up with ahead of time.
That's what I love about a lot of the top models is it feels like the company themselves, OpenAI or Google or whatever, they don't really know all of the use cases. You guys just basically build the best model you can, you throw it out there, and then it's like the trends and everything kind of explodes outwards, which honestly as a user is really fun because it feels like we are part of that. It's not just like Google's like, okay, here's a tool and this is exactly what you do with it. It's just like, go be creative, go figure something out. Okay, I got to show you a couple tests I've done for people watching of Nano Banana 2. And then, and I have a complaint for you, Logan, that I will lobby after.
Yes.
So the first thing is I asked it to do the thermostat thing and it accurately pulled my thermostat and it literally, I mean, I didn't even realize it was going to do my actual city, but it's like right here, it says Holly Springs, North Carolina, very specific. And you can go and change like the location, but like I'm asking it for a thermostat on the wall. And this is very accurate. That's cool. Okay, so that's obviously an amazing upgrade. I'll show you what the older version of Google Gemini, for anyone watching, I first asked it to make a picture of me next to a cow. This is the old Google Gemini. I don't know how accurate it is. And then today's Google Gemini was able to do this. So I gave it a picture of myself, said put me in a suit. Like if you look at the faces here, exact same face.
Exact same face.
Really, really good. So I'm super impressed with that. My one complaint for you, Logan, that I will lobby is in the bottom corner of Google Gemini, the logo here. Why do we have the Google Gemini logo there? And can we remove it?
I think there's lots of I get pings every day about pro and ultra subscribers who want the watermarking to be disabled. I think it's like principally like a safety concern, honestly. It's actually like not like it's not marketing for Gemini. It's none of those things. It's like you want,
Because we all use the tool to pull it off, like the logo remover tool.
the stance is trying to make sure that folks know a visible watermark so folks know that this is an AI generated image. And I think it will be interesting. Like the meta conversation is like, how long, in society do we continue to do these things? Because like eventually you just don't trust anything. But I think it is useful in these like transitory periods where like there are pockets of people who don't know that share models can make images that look like this. To be able to like at least try our best to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the long tail of customers. And again, this is like the unique obligation that I think Google has as like a steward of the whole internet, et cetera. But yeah, I know there's lots of it. If actually the like tactical suggestion is like, if you have a more enterprise prosumer use case, you can use the API to generate images as well. The API for developers doesn't have, it's watermarked synthetically behind the scenes, like in the actual like generated pixels, but it doesn't have a visible watermark in the bottom right hand corner.
I think the question, just to carry on with that for 1 second, Jaden, is like, so how do you guys think about safety these days? Because when you say pockets, like, I mean, I think you're being generous there, right? Like a lot of the world does not know what this can do. And it's funny. It's sort of like with AI writing, like, everybody kind of puts up AI writing. They're like, this is great, until they realize like everybody's stuff sounds the same. And now with, we're in a world now where like, everybody can just sort of say like, that's fake or that's AI generated or something like that. But Google, as you're sort of saying, I just kind of want to pull on that a little bit, that they have a certain responsibility. And that's what I found. One of the biggest differences between the original Nano Banana, which was also phenomenal, and this one is the face. It was just hard to get the face exactly right. And I was just looking at it, for those of us who saw it, that was exactly the face. But that also like raises, like real safety concerns. So how do you guys like think about this? Like, I mean, this is like all the talk these days, right?
It's exceptionally difficult and exceptionally nuanced. And I feel this way particularly as somebody who, and you are both in this situation as well, like has my face all over the internet in various capacities. And it is yeah, it's a really, it's nuanced. I think even in like the global context, like I live in Chicago, and the sort of like laws and regulations about like specifically biometric stuff and faces is different than in other. And I think like Texas and California have some of these things as well. Same thing in Europe and other places. And I think this is actually some of the like macro challenge for Google is like trying to navigate being on the frontier, doing the right thing for our users, all the complexity of all of these different geographical restrictions and stuff like that. And again, I see these comments all the time online too, because in Europe the regulations are different, and so the product stances are different, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for you, Connor, but like it's exceptionally difficult. There's lots of people
Yeah.
at Google spending time thinking about how do we do the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Logan, the thing that Connor and I were both talking about before you got on here that we were both really curious. We've heard you talk about a lot of the different tools Google has for vibe coding, and we're curious for you, who like famously, right, is a huge developer. I mean, you probably spent a lot of your life writing code by hand. What are you doing with vibe coding today? Well, like, give us an example of a project that you personally would vibe code. How is your relationship with coding different today than it was?
It's completely different. And so I think the big difference is, and just to opine on this point for a second, as somebody who was an engineer and sort of was a full-time software engineer, um, I think the thing that I enjoyed about coding was this like aspect of problem solving. And so I think it feels different. Like the problem you're now solving is different using, like, I actually kind of enjoyed, something didn't work. I didn't know how to do it. I would have to go online and sort of spend time looking through Stack Overflow and trying to do something. And then what actually originally got me excited about like helping developers was, I was like, oh shit, that was horrible. Let me try to make it so that the next developer who runs into this problem like doesn't have that. So like how you sort of leave the breadcrumbs to fix this experience for the next person. And it is interesting that like that is, I don't do that anymore, which is like, I guess neither good nor bad, but it's different. Um, and the problems that I face are actually very different. Like I'm thinking about now as I'm building stuff, like not how to make sure that it works, but like I can actually go and build a full app now. And so I'm thinking about like, how do I make sure this scales? And how do I make sure that this isn't like going to, do bad things for users or do bad things for me if something gets exposed, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the problem space has shifted to like much more of like a engineering manager who's like overseeing this project and like thinking about all the aspects. And that's actually like a very different skill set than like knowing what Python syntax does and how to sort of like orchestrate things in a different way. Um, but I think the silver lining is like I'm able to tackle like much more difficult problems. And so the thing that what I built over the holidays, which I had a ton of fun a ton of fun building, is bringing Gemini natively to iMessage. So I have this like fully external. I didn't share it online because I didn't want to sort of deal with all the hassle of thousands of people trying to use this thing and then me having to pay for it and all that stuff. But like it's fully external. It's built to just like bring all of the capabilities of Gemini directly into iMessage. You can text with it. I don't know if I sent you this, Connor, but it's you can sort of go and engage the model. It works natively in group chats. It's multimodal. You can send it audio messages. It'll respond back like natively with iMessage audio. And I built all of this using AI coding tools and using Gemini. And it is remarkable how much more ambitious I could be. Like I never would have been, that would have been like I needed to raise venture capital dollars from a tier one VC and like hire a team of 10 engineers. And it would have taken me 6 to 12 months. And like I did it in 3 days and 150 million tokens or something like that over the holidays. And like just incredibly fun and like freeing as a developer.
It's really crazy because for all those stories, like you have other people who are discovering something else. And we were talking the other day about how I think it was probably like last week, but like Google is having this absolutely monster week. It feels like an IO week or something like that, right? It's like it's obviously Gemini 3.1, it's Lyria 3, it's is it Pomeli? Like the photo shoot. And I'm just like when I look at all this, you don't even know where to begin. But I think that the idea, first of all, of having just a stronger brain behind it feels like it's doing something. I'm not sure if that's the accurate way to say it, but like 3.1 is just making absolutely everything better. It's sort of like rising the whole tide because it feels like that's the brain behind it. But the other thing is, what we were talking about was, we have like a new course out or something, and I was Gene was sort of saying like, okay, so what's new in the course? Gene was like pumping my course, which was awesome. But I was saying like a lot of these things that like we saw in IO when we're all like together in IO, I'm like, that's awesome. But they're kind of glitchy, like they don't work every time. And now they're smooth. They're like Gmail smooth. So it's like AI Studio, AI Studio Live, like all these things, like Vision, everything is just so smooth. And now it's sort of like, how are people using it? So when you kind of think about these releases of like all these things together, is it just sort of like I don't mean this sort of like in a non-strategic way, but are you kind of like trying to help everybody because Google's trying to like raise all of humanity up? Or is there, I don't know, just sort of like a vision for at some point all these things are going to come together like Voltron kind of thing and like create like one thing?
I think the goal is like have one thing. I think there's a bunch of like technical challenges that make that difficult to do. And so I think to de-risk some of that, it's like we do a lot of these things in parallel. It would actually be like way better for us. And like some of the challenge right now is like what happens when you have all of these things being completely different. VO is different from, Nano Banana is different from Gemini, is different from Genie, is different from Lyria. And so the complexity to serve all of that stuff and like actually bring it to the world using TPUs and sort of stream the results around the world is much more complicated than if we just had one thing. There are a lot of, and I think this is somewhat, I think Sergey actually said this in the interview that we did at IO, which is like, there's a lot of technical infrastructure and like architecture stuff that is very similar between all of them. So like there's progress being made to bring, all of the various AI models together into a single thing. And I think we'll see that. I think we'll also see like this, and I've talked about this a bunch, but like the models as we see them today becoming systems or agents. And so I think if you look like IO 2026, maybe IO 2026 is too soon. It's, whatever, 82 days away or whatever. IO 2027, I think if you see Google not talking about Gemini as sort of like an agent or as a system, I would be surprised by that personally, given the direction of travel. Even for the Nano Banana 2 example that I just gave, where search is turned on and image search is turned on, and the model is actually reasoning, it's going through the reasoning process. Behind the scenes, it's not just a model. Like there's a bunch of other stuff that's happening. There's orchestration, there's like a loop, there's tool calling, there's all this stuff. And I think that level of complexity of like what we considered a model and what we consider a system or an agent is going to change. And that will change how we look at it and interact with this stuff as well, Connor, to your point about like things converging together. But I think the short-term focus is make as much research progress on all these things as possible, and then strategically start mainlining a bunch of the capabilities. Which is it's difficult to do in practice.
Okay, I love the approach that Google has had. I feel like for a lot of the AI boom, whatever you want to call it, since ChatGPT came out, I feel like a lot of times companies would come with big shiny demos. You would try it, it wouldn't quite work, and I felt like a lot of time we were kind of just sitting there waiting for the AI to catch up with maybe the vision that a lot of these companies had. I feel like Google's in a really interesting place today where I think 90% of people have not tried half of the capabilities that Gemini and all of these tools have come out with. I mean, I don't even realize half the launches because Google puts them out so fast. And I'll tell you one that was just crazy. I was just looking up like all the launches that happened this month, and I didn't realize that 2 days ago, Google Opal, which by the way, I need you to tell your Opal team to slow down because I've been building something similar called AI Box for a long time, and they're really putting a cramp in my style trying to keep up. But I didn't realize Google Opal just came out with a new feature, which is a new agent step that lets basically static workflows become dynamic and interactive. There's all of these cool things. And so I feel like the capabilities, Google, it just feels like they're putting out all of these features, whether it's in Gemini or Nano Banana or Opal or all these other things. And people can't catch up. Where in the past, I felt like we're kind of waiting for the models. Feels like Google's kind of like rushing past people. So I guess talk to us a little bit about Google's approach there, and then perhaps looking in the future again, what areas of this you are the most excited for? What kind of progress you're most excited for?
What you get by having this like breadth and depth of talent that I think Demis has talked a lot about. Like the reality is DeepMind is big, Google is big, and so there's lots of different teams that are super smart that can go and push on this stuff. So maybe to your detriment in the case of Opal. But I think the Opal team has a very, very specific vision of what they're trying to do, and I feel like, at least from what I know, Jade, and hopefully it doesn't overlap too much with where y'all are going.
I think we're okay.
I think, and other folks have talked about this, and I feel this all the time. There's this huge capability overhang, which is like the models are able to do so much. And actually, like, the tension for Google is the bar for our products, because there's lots of people using them, is very high in a lot of cases. And so the models can do more even than actually I think is showcased on Google products in a lot of cases. And sort of you see some of the delta in external products and Google products, are like, there's been AI and email for a while, and sort of it took the Gmail team, rightfully so, because there's a billion people who use Gmail, time to figure out sort of like how to do that in a way that is maximally beneficial for the billion users who are using it. So I think that's like the main tension point for us, is we have really capable models. In some cases, like, we just need to know when is the right time to land something and what is the right product experience to actually build for that set of users. So yeah, I think it'll be fun to see that capability overhang continue. And like, I feel this tension all the time as a somebody building AI studio, is we could just do so much more. The models can do so much more. And even in like the vibe coding stuff that we have, like, we're scratching the surface of what we could have for users. Just because it takes time to build software and put it all into production. So yeah, I think I'm most excited for faster models, to your question. I think and I talk to people about this all the time, like, we're now, and I think you hear people in like AI coding talking about this specifically, because like that work is very parallelizable today. But to me, that actually feels like somewhat of a bug. Like, I don't, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't want to do work in parallel. I think it seems kind of weird. Like, it's sort of, there's beauty and there's like things in your brain that happen when you are able to like stay focused on a specific task. And I think the idea that like when you're building software, you would want to be doing 5 completely independent things in parallel just seems wrong to me. And I'm sure there's some benefits in certain cases, but I think the main blocker of that is like the models just need to be faster, because it just takes like, there's nothing else to do. And so you're either going to sit there or you're going to try working on something else. And like, reasonable people are trying to work on something else. So it's not clear when we'll solve that, but like, it is something that's very top of mind that I think will unlock lots of these product experiences, where like half of the AI experience today for everyone in most products is like sitting there waiting for the model to do something, which is just like a weird, weird experience.
I mean, it feels inevitable, in the same way everything Google's doing feels inevitable. I think in the best way. I really do think it's the I mean, look, the products are phenomenal. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to Google. And especially thank you for always being so generous with your time. You're always like, yeah, I'll come on. So like, you're the best.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun. Thank you for having me on for the 100th time. And I'm excited to hopefully see both of you at I/O in 82 days. We'll all be hanging out and looking at hopefully more incredible launches.